Welcome to another edition of the Florida Chamber's Bottom Line with David Hart, Executive Vice President of the Florida Chamber, and our very special guest, Robin Westcott, Florida's Insurance Consumer Advocate. Thank you for being here. We are well into the first month of hurricane season in Florida, and Floridians have become increasingly dependent on quality insurance products, and rightfully so, especially in light of Florida's vulnerability to tropical weather. So as Florida's Insurance Consumer Advocate, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, in some respects, the name speaks for itself, but I think for my role, I've taken a little bit of perspective on this role as consumer advocate in trying to make sure that the feedback that I get from consumers translates over into good policy and information and collection of information so that the policymakers of our state can hear those voices, but hear them with data and with facts.
Earlier this year, Governor Scott signed a Florida Chamber-backed auto insurance fraud bill, PIP reform. And as Florida's Insurance Consumer Advocate, you played a leading role in outlining the rampant fraud and abuse in the PIP system. Do you see the PIP reform law as helping? Do you think we'll see some changes?
I do think that the PIP reform bill will lead to changes in our system. I think from the perspective of rate, certainly we have faced potential 30% increases for that rate over the next few years. If we do nothing more than to stop that increase and then back ourselves out of some of the fraud and abuse, almost $1 billion worth, I think we will have accomplished something with this bill.
And David, the Florida Chamber, you were front and center on this reform.
Well, we certainly supported the reform. It was clearly necessary. Florida was the #1 state out of the 50 states for fraud and abuse, nearly $1 billion, as Robin said. I do think the legislation attacked the right cost drivers, which were fraudulent claims, staged accidents, and the high cost of attorney's fees. And so my hope, and I think we'll see this bear out, is that by 2014, consumers will be able to see a real reduction in their rates.
Absolutely something to continue watching over the next few years. This past session, lawmakers also took steps to right-size Citizens and begin returning it to its intended form, an insurer of last resort. But it continues to remain the largest property insurer in the state and possibly one of the highest in the nation. So what are some of the concerns that you have about that?
Well, I think it was the first vocalization that we need to turn the tide as far as what Citizens is. We need it to be a residual market again. I think that I certainly agree with the right sizing of the CAT fund. That was not my concern. My only concern was how aggressive we were. Certainly with what we've seen at June 1 renewals on reinsurance, with the rate online that has been very competitive and a lot of capacity in the reinsurance marketplace, perhaps this next year we can be more aggressive with our reforms and make sure that the CAT fund is able to pay its claims in the event of a large catastrophe.
David, with this instability, is Florida storm ready? Are businesses concerned about this issue?
Well, we're not storm ready. Let's be honest about that. We've been very fortunate in Florida that we haven't had a major hurricane in 6 years. Oh, wow. But hope is not a strategy, and I'm afraid that's where we are right now in Florida. Without having had storms in the last 6 years, both Citizens and the CAT Fund's balance sheet have had a chance to get stronger. But quite frankly, Citizens is the largest insurer in the state now when it was intended to be the insurer of last resort. It's the 9th largest in the country. And the rates are not actuarially sound. And so it's really not fair for all the other homeowners, auto owners, businesses, charities to have to deal with the possibility of a large assessment on their policies to cover Citizens should there be a catastrophic loss.
Robin, you and the Florida Chamber have supported reforming Citizens and the CAT Fund and reducing this exposure that would affect every Floridian. Will there be opportunities next legislative session in 2013 to truly put reforms in place?
I do, but I think that we really need to step back and make sure that we do have a good strategy, that we do have a good plan. Many of the efforts made to depop Citizens right now, I think we just need to make sure we've thought through, because there's so many working parts to this. Reinsurance is a huge part. Cat fund, the way it functions, citizens, all of those things can never be attacked in a vacuum. What I would like to see is a comprehensive strategy and plan to do all of those things and address our homeowners marketplace to bring it back to a vibrant, competitive, free market system.
So David, what would the Florida Chamber like to see happen next?
Well, I couldn't agree more with Robin that we need a comprehensive plan that tackles all of those issues. Certainly on Cat Fund, last year we supported Representative Hager's bill. We'll be working with him again throughout this summer in preparation for next session. Last year there was roughly a $2 billion shortfall in Cat Fund's ability to pay all its claims, even with the bonding money it would be able to generate. And so that's a concern. We've got to make sure we fix that and close that gap. In essence, right-size the Cat Fund.
With that, Robin, thank you for joining David and me. And to you, our viewers, thank you for watching another edition of the Florida Chamber's Bottom Line. We'd also like to remind you to join us at the Florida Chamber Insurance Summit that will be taking place at Disney's Boardwalk.